Hey everybody, welcome back to history. Today is going to be a really short lesson. We're going to begin chapter 4 in your student textbook, and there is no page number on chapter 4, but the previous page before that says page 12. So we're starting chapter 4. This is 12. We're starting on page 13, and you should have your handout ready so we can record our answers as we read through our book. We're only going to read page 13 today. But if you look at your page, before we start, can you make sure that you write your name on here? I've already put the date for you. Please write your name. Half of the class is not writing their name on their papers. You need to have your name on there. Take the time to do it right now. Okay? All right. So the first question that we have doesn't have a number on it. It's got a little arrow. And it's asking, what is history? And I put in parentheses page 4, because back in page 4, we learned what history is. But it's also on page 13. So let's read page 13 first. All right. God's providence. Let me see. We're going to be looking up the definition of providence, so you'll know what God's providence is. So in Proverbs 21:1, it says, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. The king. So the king, whatever the king desires to think or do or decide, it's in the hand of the Lord. The Lord is the one that directs him in what to think. He turns it wherever he wants. Proverbs 21:1. So read together with me. The Bible teaches us that God is in control of all his creation. God is in control of everything that happens. God has a plan which he is working out for all of men. So I'm going to move my screen. I'm going to move the camera, so I want you guys to see the timeline that's up here above me. So that's my timeline. And it begins, let me move this over here. It begins here, creation. Notice how the word history, instead of H being uppercase, it's H-I-S, so that the word his stands out. So the timeline or the plan is God's plan, his story. History is his story, and the timeline is a record. It's a record that we have of everything that has happened, and God already has an ending. It keeps going, and down there at the very end is a picture of the class from last year, and hopefully we'll get this year's class up there soon. But this is a record. This is a record of God's story, what he has planned, and he already has an ending. He already knows what's going to happen, and he is directing his creation to carry out his plan. All right? So God has a plan which he is working out for all men. History records God working in the lives of men and women. History is a record. History records God working where? In the lives of me and you. When it says men, it's a general term for everybody, not just men and not women. It's for men, women, and children. It's God working in the lives of men and women. So the very first answer that we have here, what is history? We're going to record. This is your answer, a record of God working in the lives of men and nations. All right? Which nation do we live in? We live in the United States of America. So God is working in our nation. He is working in every nation. All right? So this is the definition for history. If you need some time, go ahead and pause your video. I'm going to continue. Okay. So question number 1, it's asking you, have you ever played outside while it was raining? Have you guys ever played outside while it was raining? On that line, I want you to answer yes or no. Okay, there's no right or wrong. You know, it's gonna lead us to the next question. So if some of you guys answered yes, then let's read question number 2. Have you tried to make the water run in different directions? So if you're outside and there's a puddle and there's dirt and there's a puddle in this dirt and it's kind of like moving, the water is kind of moving along, and have you ever tried to stop the water with your foot? Put the foot there so it like the water's moving and you put your foot here and it's moving and it can't go and it builds up to the size of your shoe, then it starts going around. Or maybe you try to put some dirt there to like hold the water so it doesn't, so like that's called a dam. You put a little mound of dirt and the water starts to build up and rise and rise and rise. That's called a dam. So number 2 says, have you tried to make the water run in a different direction? You can put yes or no there. Okay. Number 3, how did it make it change? How did it make the water change? Well, for some of you, you might have just tried to stop it and create like a dam. So you have like a little puddle of water. You can put that down. You can say, I created a dam to build a body of water. Some of you guys maybe wanted the water to go in a different direction. Just keep going, but a different direction. So you can put, it turns the water in a different direction. You can write that down. Different. Okay. Okay. For those of you who answered, it turned the water in a different direction. If you're not like the beginners in this class who are not sure how to spell some of these big words yet, I wrote it here on the board. It turned the water in a different direction. That's for number 3. Number 4, have you ever seen where a dam has been built to control the flow of water? I don't know how many of you guys have traveled up to the mountains here. I'm trying to recall where. If you go out down Reed all the way to the mountains, in not towards, let's see, not towards Visalia, but the opposite direction. There's a dam up there. I don't know how many of you guys have driven up there, but you'll see where there is some mountains maybe. Let me see, like this, and they will actually build they'll build a dam, a big wall made out of concrete. There's no holes in there. And so it used to be a river. So there used to be water coming down between the mountains, a big river. Now it's behind this wall and it keeps rising up and rising up to this level. Okay, it won't, once they have like little holes back, doors. They have doors there where they open and close them. So when the water starts, it's going to get ready to overflow. They open these doors and they'll let some water out. That's called a dam. Okay. So have you ever seen where a dam has been built to control the flow of water? You can answer yes or no, and you can write down what you saw. If you want to write something extra, what did you see? Did you see a big wall? Did it look like a lake? What did it look like to you? Write that down for number 4. All right. Now, we're gonna change the subject just a little bit. So now you understand how water can be turned. You can make water go in the direction you want it to go based on what you put in its path. If you don't want it to go a certain way, you put something there and it'll turn direction or it'll start to rise if you want to hold it. Okay, now let's change gears for a little bit, and let's look at something else. In the Webster's 1828 dictionary, the definition for providence is timely care. That means you take care of something a certain way at a certain time. You don't just take care of it anyway. It's you're making sure it's being taken care of a certain way because you already know what um, you have a plan of what you want. So by the way you take care of it, that's the way things will turn out. It also says that you provide, that you give and you prepare for something that's going to happen. You're getting ready. You're taking care of something with a purpose for something to cause something to happen. The other definition is God's care and control. God is taking care and he's controlling men and nations. So let's write. Okay. So providence. Definition for providence. This is question number 5. Providence is God's care. This is an apostrophe. That means God's. That means, actually, no. I'm sorry. It's just an S, not an apostrophe. Here's my marker. God's care and control. Oh, I wrote it twice. God's care and control of men and nations. This is a definition for providence. Now, next week, when I give you a new handout, right here where it has review, I will always have review questions. Next week, I will put providence up here. And so I want you to learn this definition, this definition. So next week when I put review, I'm going to have you put it and I'm not going to write it on the board. So I'm going to require you to remember what it means. And every now and then I'll put review questions there that I would like for you to remember and not forget. Okay? So I'm going to go back and read from page 13. History records God working in the lives of men and women. God is also working out his plan for each nation. The Bible teaches that the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord as the rivers of water. He turns it wherever he wills. Proverbs 21:1. By me, this is God talking, by me kings reign. Because of God, he put the kings there. And princesses decree justice. Princesses are the ones that rule, and they should rule justly, all right, fairly. And that's in Proverbs 8:15. And in Daniel 2:21, it says, God tells us that he removes kings and he sets up kings. That means he puts them there, but he can also take them out. Now, in America, we don't have kings and queens, but we have presidents. We have mayors and governors. So we could easily replace kings by president. We could say God removes presidents and he sets up presidents. All right? By me, presidents have power and princesses decree justice. Or we could say government decrees justice. The president's heart is in the hand of the Lord as the rivers of water. He turns it wherever he wills. God puts men in leadership positions for the nations, to serve the people. They're not there to rule with a unjust power. They're not there to have to be tyrants. They're not there to just to tell us what to do. They're there to serve us. Remember, in chapter 3, we learned the definition of minister. A minister can be a person or it can be a government, and they are there to serve the people for the people's needs. That's why God has people in leadership. So that was a very short lesson. I want you to, on Thursday, we're going to finish. We're going to go answer 6 through 9. I want you to remember what providence is. Providence is God's care and control of men and nations. Those of you guys who have been in my classroom for a year or two, and you're saying, Ms. Yolanda, isn't providence God's care and protection of his creation? Yes, that's true. But that would be the definition for divine providence. This is providence. Divine providence is God's care and protection, care and protection of his creation. So it's basically the same thing. All right. So that's our history lesson for Tuesday, October, what is it? Today's the 20th, and I didn't want to make it too long, so we'll finish it up next week, right? I'm sorry, not next week. We'll finish up our lesson on Thursday. Bye-bye.